Ladies and gents, mark your calendars because Diablo 4's next developer livestream starts on April 20th and will feature a special guest that personally I've been following for years. In the meantime, Blizzard just confirmed a lot of endgame details with many more still they haven't talked about, so lots to cover in this video. Starting things off with the difficulties, players who took part in the beta know that the first difficulties were already available at level 1. However, Nightmare and onward require a bit more. Specifically, once you're finished with the main campaign and completed the capstone dungeon called Cathedral of Light on the veteran difficulty, this will unlock the Nightmare mode, which among other benefits will also open up Nightmare dungeons, Helltide events, unique and secret gear, and champion monsters. Torment follows right after a similar path. You have to complete the capstone dungeon called Fallen Temple, of course on the previous Nightmare difficulty, and there's likely going to be a fifth one that we haven't seen up until this point. But all of this follows after level 50, and one way Blizzard lets us further progress our character is via the Paragon system. The new video gave us a better look and understanding at what happens once you reach level 50 and unlock this new system, which by the way also has a max cap. So every level past 50 provides 4 Paragon points each, and the max level for your character is going to be 100 in the full game. This means you can collect 200 Paragon points in total by the time you reach the max level cap with your character. Now, Paragon is broken into several boards, which are further comprised out of smaller nodes, and each class starts from a different location on that board. Every point spent will let you unlock a node, providing different attributes depending on the class and build that you're going with. Just like in the case of gear, nodes also range in quality from the more common ones that provide just plain stat increases like strength, dexterity or intelligence, all the way to the legendary quality ones with increasingly stronger and interesting effects. For example, we have a look at the Cheap Shot, a legendary node here, which deals a 5% increased damage for each nearby crowd control enemy, up to 25%, but there are other more stronger ones. In addition to these types of nodes, we also have the sockets, in which we're going to be able to place the glyphs. These can be seen on the left side of the screen, including the ones that are unlocked by this current player. Glyphs further let us customize our builds, providing buffs to connected nodes and other interesting effects that will progress our builds even further. From the recent reveals, we also saw how these boards can be rotated, giving the players the possibility to focus on different stats and get access to different nodes and glyphs. So depending what build you're going with here, you will want to rotate these and gain access to the effects that are best suited for you. One other thing to know about these boards is that at the end of each one of them, there's something called gate nodes, which basically let you connect to the next one, so you get a lot more options to rotate these and combine them for your perfect build. That being said, the cost is another factor to take into consideration, and from the footage alone, by level 75 it seems that it's quite significant, around 50k to reset one single node. The character here seems to have around 4 million gold in cash, so at this level, refunding the 100 plus points would exceed their budget by 1 million at the very least, and that's excluding the skill tree reset cost, gear upgrade cost, and everything else until then. What this means for the end player is basically you will want to just plan ahead accordingly and make sure you use build calculators if you really want to max out your build. I don't think that's such a big issue, and even more so, you can just farm everything back again. According to various reports, it seems that it takes roughly 1 day of farming to basically fully reset your character in the end game, though no reports if this is max level 100 or something lower than that. In any case, that should not be a problem with the abundance of endgame activities that Blizzard has crammed into Diablo 4, one of which is the Nightmare dungeons. There's over 120 dungeons in the full game, and any one of them can become a Nightmare version. This is done via special sigils you find that add special modifiers to these dungeons, increasing the enemy's ferocity as well as the provided higher quality loot. This includes both the affixes, but many times it also adds additional objectives to these specific areas. There were concerns about affixes being uninspired, and the video here definitely does a great job at putting some of that to rest, as we have a first look at a really cool effect called Hellgates. So this will occasionally spawn these portals that just pour out different types of enemies, including ones that aren't even native to that specific region, on top of everything else that you're dealing with at the moment in that dungeon. Good to note about the Nightmare Sigil is that each one of these will correspond to a specific dungeon anywhere within Sanctuary, so if one drops, you will most likely want to backtrack and do that dungeon it belongs to. Once completed, these can also provide even more powerful sigils to use as you progress through the various tiers of difficulty that Diablo 4 has to offer. In fact, as players progress through world tiers, Blizzard has confirmed that new Nightmare dungeons will also become available to explore. New dungeons are not the only ones getting a nice boost into the endgame, however, open world activities do too. Hell Tides are one of them, and you can think of these as basically the demonic events we got in the betas, but this time on steroids. So they seem to unlock when reaching World Tier 3 Nightmare and will spawn randomly in the overworld. Defeating the overpowered monsters in them will also provide a special type of shard that you can then use to unlock special Helltide caches that can be found in those respective regions, which will also further provide additional access to legendary gear. Also, speaking of the open world, we had a glimpse of yet another open world boss called the Wandering Death, which seems to be using necromancy related powers against the players. There's at least 3 in total that we know of yet, but there's possibly a lot more we haven't even heard of in the full game. Really loving the abundance of loot, but Blizzard also talked about a feature we previously mentioned, which is the Tree of Whispers, another component of the endgame exploration that provides additional rewards. These are basically bounties and objectives that cycle throughout the day, and completing it will let you turn in a special type of currency called Grim Favors back at the Tree of Whispers. Once given in, players get to choose between caches of different gear types such as weapons, boots or gauntlets. Say you're missing a good one-handed weapon or an armor piece, well, this can be a great way to supplement some of that. It's not just items, however, you also get rewarded with extra XP, crafting mats, and sometimes even sigils, among other cool types of rewards. Finally, Blizzard also went into a bit more detail about the Fields of Hatred, these special areas that contain both PvP as well as PvE. Inside of these, we'll have to collect something called Shards of Hatred by defeating monsters or other players, but there's a catch here that you have to keep in mind. In order to get these shards back in town and even be able to use them, you will need to first purify them. And in doing so, this will also make you visible on the map to players within a large radius. So if you do happen to be there and players see you, they will most likely try to attack you. In this case, there's both an incentive for you to not die, since that means losing some of those shards, but at the same time, it's also an incentive for other players to attack you as they can gain those shards from you. But once you purify these, you can bring these back into town and you can use them to buy additional rewards, including items as well as cosmetics. So totally worth getting for the extra trouble, and it should make your character look a lot cooler. So definitely looks interesting, especially in terms of the affixes. It kind of put some of my concerns to rest, but let me know down below if there's any left or if you liked some of the endgame presentation that has been shown up until now. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.